Some may call her a hermit, which is pretty accurate, all things considered. To the main cast of the series, they think of her as a very preachy person, almost like Aki in a sense, and others are wary of how truly strong and wise this gal can be, especially with her pets. I will refer to said girl as Kasen. Hello, Magi here, and welcome back to another episode of Character Profile, the series where I take an in-depth look of a character from games, Printwork, fan-related stuff, and anything that can be associated with Kasen will be discussed here. So without further ado, let's begin the character profile for Kasen Ibaraki. Name and their meaning. Let's go over her name. It's a little weird, all things considered, although she introduces herself in Wild and Hermit as Ibaraki Kasen, or Kasen for short. This is merely her pseudonym. Her real name is, Kasen Ibaraki. Note that the different spelling of Kasen. Here is the pseudonym one, and here is the legit spelling. Her surname, Ibaraki, comes from Ibaraki Doji and means storm bush or rose bush, while Kasen is a real commonly used Japanese name written with the character for flower and fan. Glad to see it's a usable name. Her hermit name, Ibaraki Kasen, translates to rose flower hermit and is often just shortened to whatever you're seeing right now. Kasen literally means flower hermit, a homonym of her, actual name. And this Kasen just means flower fan. This is getting kind of confusing. Kasen is also homophonous with the first two characters and Hijiangu, or in Japanese, Kazneko, the only female member of the 8 immortals of Taoist mythology. Sure, let's go with that. Xianggu owns a Fuang Hyang, making it likely to be the basis of Kasen's affinity with animals. So I had to look what the fuck is Feng Hyang, or however you bloody say it. From Wikipedia, they're mythological birds found in East Asian mythology that reign all over birds. I guess if you own some mystical birds, dealing with other animals would probably be easier. I wouldn't know, I'm not exactly at Kasen's level. The name Kasen also appears in the Japanese detective novel series, Nuru Botoke no Utake no Shitaku, aka Nuru Botoke's Banquet in Preparation. That was fun to say. It's plausible that Zune, as a lover of mystery novels, may have taken inspirations from there. It wouldn't surprise me one bit there. Character appearance. We're going to be covering her physical appearance. In her original appearance, she has red eyes and shoulder length pink hair with Chinese style buns. Her right arm is wrapped in bandages, concealing a gaseous black smoke. She wears a white top and a green skirt. Over her top is a maroon tabard with a thorny vine motif and large rose-shaped ornament just below collar level. Her single strap shoes are colored the same as her tabard, and a shackle lays on her left wrist. Her severed arm, aka the Ibaraki Doji form, is generally the same in terms of design, with the only notable differences being the presence of horns, fangs, slit pupil eyes, claw-like nails, and sharper hair. The tabard and skirt she wears is colored different from Kasen's, being 2 separate shades of blue. Shackles are present on all 4 limbs, with her leg shackles having iron ball and chains attached to them. Kasen's true form, with her right arm reconnected to her body, has her gained horns where her buns previously were, and she grew knee-length hair. Both her tabard, now black and golden, and her skirt, now white, are noticeably longer, and her top becomes sleeveless. She retains her shackle on all 4 limbs with iron bearings attached to all of them and slit eye pupils. Is it strange that the only thing I find weird about her transformation is that her clothes got longer? Not the horns, gaining her right arm back, or any of that, just that her clothes are lengthier? I don't know why I'm so tilted about that part. Appearance in games and Printwork. Most of the time I go through the games first, but since Kasen is originally a Printwork character, I'll start with that then go to games. Her first appearance, to no one's bloody shock, was in Wild and Hermit. She was the main character of her own series. The only one with as much appearances as hers were Reimu and Marissa. Next on the list would be Oriental Sacred Place. Here she pops out in 2 chapters. She's in chapter 16 and 17. We then have Forbidden Scrollery. She only has a short cameo appearance in chapter 10. That was bloody hard to find. Next up will be Visionary Fairies and Shrine. Though it's not her main work, she's still showing up a bit here. She's in chapter 2, 6, 7, 9.5, and 10. The last Printwork appearance would be in Curiosity of Lotus Asia. Here she's in chapter 29 and 33, both having to deal with Sumiriko and Renosuke. Now we're going to be covering games. Kasen's debut game was an urban legend in Limbo. Kasen's reveal was pretty hype as she was in the Comic Get 87 trial version along with Reimu and Marissa. In the story mode, Reimu was retelling the events that had happened in the prologue. After defeating Reimu in battle, she collects the occult balls and continues on trying to gather the others. Not surprising in the least, Kasen shows up in the sequel, Antinomy of Common Flowers. Here she teams up with Reimu to investigate the perfect possession incident, which actually started back in Urban Legend, though you only know that if you played the PS4 version, which had Raising story mode. In the game, she's Reimu's slave. Her last game appearance as of this recording is Wily Beast and Weakest Creature, although she only showed up in an ending. Personality. Let's see how this hermit is like in person. Kasen is kind and polite to nearly everyone, even to those who constantly threaten her, like Komachi. She is always willing to lend a word of advice or teach a lesson, but is often seen as preachy and overly critical of others. Reimu is the prime recipient of Kasen's lectures, though that could be due to Reimu's inherent nature of being greedy. As kind as she is, she's a pretty garbage liar. She tends to get super nervous or agitated when she's hiding the truth, especially with her true species. Chapter 21 is a good example of Kasen losing her cool. Though she's not lying about anything, you can clearly see Kasen visibly scared at the mention of throwing beans, which makes sense given her true nature. Occupation/jobs. Though she's mostly considered a hermit, her main job is being a sage. Specifically, one of the sages of Gensokyo. The Sages of Gensokyo are a group responsible for the creation of Gensokyo. Not only that, they separated from the outside world and established social orders. The main people in the circle that we currently know of is Yukari, Kasen, and Okina. This can easily get bigger in the future, so we'll have to see. General information/backstory. This honestly might be one of the longest sections to date, so right now we know her to be a sage as described previously. We'll look at the hermits first as that's our main thing currently. So hermits in Touhou can mean wizards, transcendent person, or mountain person. It certainly fits Kasen's profile. Anyway, they're beings endowed with supernatural abilities acquired through religious training. Like Celestial, they may live for thousands of years without actually being immortal. However, unlike Celestials, whose bodies are poisonous to yokai, hermits of Earth are considered a delicacy. An animal who consumes the flesh of a hermit would become a yokai, while a yokai who does so would ascend to a higher rank or form. I won't be eating hermits anytime soon. Or ever. Hermits spend most of their days reciting sutras every sunrise and sunset. They consume very little food, and those older than 500 years old only have to ingest mist and haze to survive. Occasionally, about once every century, an assassin from hell will attack the hermit. If the hermit has slacked off even in the slightest in training, the hermit will not be able to fight them off and will fall to hell. This is something I discussed back in the Komachi profile. While this assassin is commonly believed to be Shinigami, this is a deception. It is actually one of the chiefs of the Kishin. Suiki is one of the chiefs that we currently know of. Since hermits have not completely discarded all of their worldly desires, they may often come to help humans in need. It is said that some yokai exterminators become hermits as a result of their work. There's actually something I want to point out at this point. Though Kasen is in fact a Taoist hermit, she actually has no idea what a hermit is supposed to be. She straight out admits to Komachi that she didn't realize a Taoist hermit had anything to do with religion at all. She figured it could explain her longevity and stop there. That's what happens when you don't do your research. Hermits and Lunarians are said to be similar in nature, and just like the lunar capital, a hermit's home can only be found by following a specific route which they can change if it's discovered, something Kasen had done when Marissa had discovered her crib. There's way more to this deal. According to Sagest's profile on 10 Desires, at one point in time, hermits of Taoism were common in her land in the outside world. During her conversation with Yomu, Sega refers to Miko's resurrection as similar to that of Jesus, claiming Miko's to have been far more grand and divine. Hot damn, Sega's spitting fire here. It is unknown if Sega witnessed this event or simply heard of it sometime later, but if the first were true, then this form of resurrection through Taoist teachings, or its equivalent, may have been common throughout the old world, or Sega just wasn't impressed. Japan appears to be one of the few places around this area that wasn't sufficiently populated by Taoist immortals, presumably due to the Yarormyr no Kami of Shinto and the competition from the more recent arrival of Buddhism. Miko mentions that Taoist philosophy aiming to achieve immortality and power is more appealing than overcoming suffering through Buddhism. It is known from Wild and Oriental that hermits are allies of humans, sharing a common enemy in yokai. Byakuran believes that there are probably a number of hermits among the Tengu. That I was not expecting. Another thing to note is that in Symposium, an article reveals that Kasen's been known as a hermit in the Yokai Mountain since at least 1980, if not earlier. That's the Hermit part to this. Now we need to get to the juicy part, the Oni part. Near the end of Wild, we learn that Kasen is not a simple hermit, but in fact, an Oni. She's also one of the big four of the mountain. As of now, they're a group consisting of Suika, Yugi, and one other person, which we're assuming is another Oni. You gotta be pretty tough to be in a group with those two. So like I was saying, we get the revelation that Kasen is an Oni. Reimu in fact was carrying an arm of her when she was in Avicii. The best way I can describe it is Super Hell. In this round, the arm transforms, becoming Ibaraki Dojis, which resembles Kasen. Down the line, the Kasen that we all know pops up, holding back Ibaraki. It's not all good news, as both the arm and Kasen combine to give her the final form, Kasen Ibaraki, the cunning and treacherous Oni. In the final chapter, we get a long-ass backstory to Kasen, the one we've been dying to learn. Long ago, all of her malice was forced into her right arm, which was sealed away. Though it was only an arm and was sealed away, it still had malice and was waiting for the seal to weaken. Kasen found her arm in the outside world and tried to reseal it. The issue was the arm seal had been placed on her body, not the arm, so Kasen was stuck in a pickle. So her big idea to reseal it was to have someone defeat her, namely Reimu. In order to seal her arm, it needed to be done like it was in the past, 1,000 years ago, when it was cut by the yokai blade Onikirimaru. So Kasen went super big brain here. Before they fought, Kasen gave Reimu some onigiri to eat. There was something special in it though, a fragment of the yokai blade. Kasen was planning for Reimu to reseal her arm off with that fragment. By mixing up her fantasy seal with the blade, it would be enough to seal the arm. The plan was so smart, not even her Ibaraki form was expecting that. In the end, Reimu won but was left with the severed hand. Kasen reappeared and took the arm back, after Reimu made money out of it. The funny part was it was Kasen's idea, not Reimu's. The reason Kasen wanted her arm was to keep it right beside her, like her own death. To take both opposing paths to the extreme, as that is the way of the Hermit. But yeah, that was a lot to unpack for Kasen's backstory, which is why I waited until Wild was done before making the profile. Titles. So let's review Kasen's titles. We have the Hermit, protagonist of the main part, the one-armed horned Hermit costuming Shrine Maiden of Hakuri Shrine, Menace, the Hermit who listens to wishes, Covet, the Hermit who grants wishes, Taoist-minded and animal-loving Hermit, the cunning and treacherous Oni, Mountain Hermit, and her most used one of all, the one-armed horned Hermit. I think it's pretty clear, but she's a fucking hermit, if the title didn't indicate that. Possessions, if any. One of the main items she has is the Ibaraki box of 100 medicine. It has the ability to cure all illnesses or heal any injuries to the person who drinks from it. If the drinker is healthy, it grants some temporary superhuman strength. However, in exchange for curing illnesses, the personality of the one who drinks from it will temporarily become like an Oni. Chapter 16 is where we saw it. Everyone's definitely feeling great from it, but in the end, everyone started to act like an Oni as described. Not a fun time for those showcased. Now, if you want to be super technical, her mummified arm would be considered a possession, but considering the deep dive we went into that, I feel it's safe to say we're good on that. Ability/powers. Kasen has a few tricks up her sleeve. Let's talk about them. Kasen has never directly stated what her powers are. Given that she was originally a Printwork character and not from the games, her abilities have never been fully laid out like the others, but given what we've seen from all sources, we can speculate on what she can do. One of them is guiding animals. Kasen is able to communicate with animals including cryptids, beasts, yokai, and dragons, and possesses a great deal of knowledge about them. She knows the antidotes to obscure venoms as well as the process that led an animal to become various types of yokai and how to affect them. They don't call her a sage for nothing. She also employs a number of trained animals as servants, whom she can apparently summon to her side. In addition to regular animals like monkeys, snakes, and birds, Kasen and Reimu rode on the back of Kume, her main bird, and she's even able to use such uncommon creatures like the children of dragons. That's some fancy shit right there, especially concerning the children of dragons. She even said, "Whatever I say, they will listen." According to Komachi, the employment of animal is Kasen's signature move. On the official site, it was stated that she possessed the ability to guide animals, but since it was not stated as an ability to guiding animals, it is probably not an ability name. Next would be her artificial arm. Kasen's bandaged right arm is secretly an artificial one, apparently consisting of vaporous black smoke. And Kasen is capable of remotely controlling it and detaching it to act independently. Her arm is also capable of crushing vengeful spirits, removing them from the cycle of reincarnation entirely. Komachi appears unsure how exactly Kasen does this. Of note, her arm is blown apart when it touches the Hakure Yin-Yang orb, implying that it has yokai properties. Even when Reimu touched it in chapter 1, it started to smoke up. Given what we learned, being an Oni will do that to you. The next one will be to guide and transfigure yokai. Now that's something new. It was shown in chapter 16 of Oriental that she herself said that the admonishment of the Yama Ainu who attacked humans and turned them into yokai gave a recommendation to be a yokai whose stomach is satisfied even without attacking humans, and transfigured the human protecting yokai into a Okuri Inu. Afterwards, the Yami Inu, who was actually transfigured into a protective dog in order to protect humans, drove away the three fairies of light who were scheming mischief. That's one way of handling things. When Kasen said that she did something to the Yami Inu and hoisted her bandaged arm in a meaningful manner, even Luna felt a sense of doubt that the human-eating beast would listen to preaching, so therefore it's probably not simply due to preaching, but a kind of ability. Of course, this could possibly just be part of her ability to use animals, or it was respecting the Oni. That too. She's also capable of creating light orbs. Shiny. In chapter 10 of Wild, Kasen creates orbs of light from her right hand that last for a long time and moves them by mere thought. This appears to be a generic application of mystic power rather than a specific ability of Kasen's. Since she can freely use light orbs of the size and number she wants, it can be seen that she used a massive quantity of small ones as well as a single large one. From the looks of it, she has instant movement. In the second chapter, she appeared in the background of the offertory box in the Hakuno Shrine without warning, surprising Sanae who came to visit. It has not been specified what range of distance she is able to move or if she can move anywhere. Also, in the 7th chapter, she performed the movement such that she was in the background of the offertory box without being noticed. That is some Naruto / Bleach shit if I've ever heard of it. Now this next one could be a big shocker for you. She can control the Hakurei barrier. Kasen is capable of creating openings in the barrier to and from the outside world, which she does repeatedly in Urban as well as off panels a few times in Wild. Notably, in Marissa's storyline in Urban, her incantation for opening up is, "In the name of the sage XXXX, I command and release the ban of 130 years. This possibly was foreshadowing to the reveal of her position in Wild chapter 35. We also need to talk about her true strength. In Urban, after fighting Raimi, she said to herself that using her full strength in that case would be risky for various reasons. It's unknown if this means that it could be dangerous doing it near the shrine because of the barrier or against Reimu, or if it would be risky for herself since she's probably just pretending to be a hermit without being one. Later on, we found out what Kasen's true strength was when she combined with her right hand, and that shit was pretty damn tough for Reimu. Music! Kasen only has one theme, Battlefield of Hana Hazama. This was not tied to her only though, as this music track was played as the penultimate boss theme for those characters in the position. This theme was later remixed in Antenemy by Ko Okata from the K-Waves Lab Circle. So here's the Urban version. Next up is the Antinomy version.
Gameplay.
Let's take a look at the Hermit's gameplay. Kasen returns from Urban somewhat buffed because she has no longer need to gather occult orbs to use her monkey paw, but otherwise her game plan remains the same. She is built for short to mid-range and doesn't have the bullet game for extending zoning or full screen play. She may seem like a rushdown character, but her large extended hurt boxes and difficulty controlling the screen means that one must play neutral, cautiously. Playing as Kasen requires good judgment and timing in executing her maneuvers and attacks. Utilizing her strength requires good knowledge of her hurt boxes and hitboxes, as well as the patience to not throw out careless attacks. Cautious Kasen plays will be rewarded with substantial damage and melee attacks that the opponents are forced to respect. Some of our pros are air normals are relatively fast and have big hitboxes, very fast ground normals, has a fairly easy time converting hits into full combos that do full damage. Directional bullets 2B and 8B can be effective at pressuring if used properly. Occult power adds damage to basically any combo and wall slams the opponent. Her cons are, however, zoning ability is limited, relying on 2B/8B and Hawk Beacon. Must play very patiently versus zoners. Many of her air normals, 6A, 8A, and 2A, extend her box substantially and must be used with caution. She's also disarmed. Well, I can't disagree with that.
Spell cards.
We now have to look at the spell cards. Since Kasen's been only a fighter character, we can only look at the ones from these games. We'll be covering her story spell cards in Urban Legend, The first one is called Thunder Sign, Slow Speed Muko.
So you know how when you beat her in Hope's Masquerade, she always had like the little dialogue stuff?
The next one's called Hand That Grants Wishes Until Death.
Oh wait, I want to use my cold ability once again, but I'll be safe. Oh shit, wrong ability.
The last one's called The Monkey's Paw Dreams of the Occult. There is one more thing that I don't know if it would be considered canon. You see, back when Urban had its first demo, Kasen had a story spell card that was never used aside from it, neither the web trial nor the final version. Regardless, I wanted to showcase this one-time spell card. This one is called Tiger Sign, Hozo of Both Gates.
But I need to see what this one is and then counteract that. A tiger! A tiger! What is it? What does everyone have gap powers at this point?
With Urban completed, let's review Antenemy's story spell card. The first spell card is called Spirit Hawk Sign, Fantasy Seal, Hunting done by a hawk, co-owner with Reimu.
Let's see. Okay. Oh, fuck.
The second spell card is called Thunder Spirit Sign, Muko's Thunder Shot Fantasy Seal, co-owner with Reimu.
What's their combo again? I don't remember. Alright. And then Reimu comes in. Okay. Okay, that's actually not oh, wow.
The last spell card with Reimu is called Dragon Kick Sign, Dragon Asukai Kick.
Oh, they have another one. Okay. Oh, fuck. I wasn't ready for that. Oh, okay. It's like Reimu's spell card.
The next spell card is called Thunder Transform Sign, Muko and Leaf Damaku Transformation, co-owner with Mamizo.
And whatever.
The last spell card with Mamizo is Dragon Transform Sign, Dragon's Alien Capsule.
Oh, okay. Let's see how. Oh. Okay, okay. So it's Kasen's big ball and then turns into the Pokeball. Okay, that's also a fun one. And it summons those guys too, so that's actually a pretty cool combo. I like that.
The last spell cards are used only by Kasen, but her Dream World version. The first one is called Thunder Sign, Muko's Thunderclap Flash Phantasmal Shot.
Alright, this shit. And then Yarormyr will be a free one. Oh, what the fuck? Yo, you little bitch! I was way too fast. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Holy shit, chill, girl, chill!
The last one is called Dragon Sign, Dragon's Optical Dream.
What? Oh, she's still alive, fuck! Then she's done. I was tricked, bamboozled.
Those were the story ones, however. We're now going to cover the ones you can activate in-game. The spell cards didn't change from Urban to Antenomy, so this list is still accurate. The first one is called Rap Sign, Prosthetic Arm Protus. The next one is called Dragon Sign, Dragon's Growl. The last one will be called Hawk Sign, Hawk Beacon. Her last word is called Monkey's Paw, Crush My Enemy.
Relationships.
We're now going to be focusing on Kasen's relationship. The first one will be Reimu. Kasen remembers Reimu from long ago, having visited the Hakuin Shrine many times in the past, although Reimu's memory failed her and she had to be reminded who Kasen was. That does not surprise me in the slightest. She's mostly earned Reimu's annoyance, who dislikes sermons and doesn't want her shrine to smell of them. She mostly thinks of Kasen as a nagging, preachy busybody. However, Reimu often concedes, either because Kasen is usually right or she doesn't want to deal with her. Kasen is openly critical of Reimu, believing her to be too greedy and slacking in her duties. That sums up the entirety of Wild pretty much. In truth, Kasen was mentoring and training Reimu specifically so that Reimu could be strong and wise enough to seal away Kasen's wicked arm one day. However, it appears that her fondness of Reimu grew beyond that purpose, as during Reimu's climactic battle with her arm, Kasen smiles wistfully, thinking that she must train Reimu further even as Reimu failed to take advantage of Kasen's aid. Reimu too has begun to view Kasen as a genuine friend, unable to bring herself to fight Kasen wholeheartedly until she realizes that the arm battling her is actually a separate entity from Kasen. Once she sees that Kasen survived the battle, Reimu expresses relief. By the end of things, Reimu knows that Kasen is secretly an Oni, but partially due to the friendship and partially due to owing Kasen for all the money that one of Kasen's schemes got her, Reimu can't tell anyone else about it. And that's probably for the best. I'm not sure how people would react if they learned Kasen was the one who actually attacked Reimu in the end. Next on the list would be Marissa. Initially thinking she was just a strange hermit, Marissa also met Kasen sometime before Wild and is the first to remember who she was. Much better than Reimu, that's for sure. Once reunited, Kasen is invited by Marissa to visit more often, to the disdain of Reimu. Marissa hopes that Kasen will teach her any life-extending techniques and is more than willing to listen to Kasen's preaching in exchange. That is one of Marissa's goals after all, extending her life. We're now going to look at the sages of Gensokyo. The most important one will be Yukari. It is unknown how long Yukari and Kasen have known each other, but both are yokai sages. The monologue in Perfect Memento states that it was the yokai sages who proposed the Hawkblade barrier, so Yukari and Kasen probably knew each other since at least that time. After Kasen came down from the mountain in the present day, Yukari assumed Kasen was always on her side and that Kasen's actions were intended to help Yukari's ideals. Kasen finally got fed up by the time of Wild Chapter 35 and angrily informed Yukari that she wasn't on her side. This caused Yukari a brief visible moment of distress before she regained her composure. But she also stated that she would wait as long as it takes for Kasen to come to her side. Kasen's dream self and anatomy calls Yukari a coward who gets others to do her work for her because she's too scared to do it herself. As dream selves are unrestrained exaggerations of the real being, it is uncertain how much of this reflects Kasen's actual view of Yukari. But from Dorimi's explanation of dream selves in Raisin's scenario, it does mean Kasen's normal feelings fall along those lines at least somewhat. Dang, calling Yukari a coward. I would not have expected that considering how powerful the Gap yokai is. But Kasen has fair grounds to think so, considering all the work the other girls have to handle when Yukari isn't doing shit. The last sage would be Okina. Kasen has known Okina since a while back as a fellow sage and commented how it was a misfortune getting to know her. She also claims to know how Okina works and acts around others, but any actual interaction has not been shown. I would love to see all these three sages talking to one another. It could be some fun dialogue. With the sages gone, let's talk about another important character, Komachi. I'll pretty much be using what I said from the Komachi profile since that would make my job easier. Throughout the entirety of Wild, they had an antagonistic approach to one another. Later on though, they were able to talk in a friendly manner, with Komachi laying down some threats here and there. In fact, Komachi at times would act as a cynical mentor to the Hermit, giving her valuable information she wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Kasen is unique that she has a lot of pets. They include Kote, Kumi, Muko, Sayuchi, and Kanda. They're mostly cryptids who can be summoned at any time, such as when she called on the child dragon to abduct Reimu and use the Danpang for transportation. However, there was a point at which the Raiju she captured previously felt lonesome and ran away. She is also shown to have a snake and monkey. Pet for days. The last notable one, which may sound weird, is her right arm, the Ibaraki Doji arm. This is Kasen's right arm, cut off with the use of Onikiri Maru long ago after all Kasen's malevolence was moved to it. Ibaraki's arm is sentient and has a mind of her own to the point where she can be considered a separate entity of sorts even after the two are recombined. She even managed to forcibly take control of Kasen's entire body after she realized Kasen's true intentions. Initially, Kasen was overjoyed to be reunited with it, however this was a front as Kasen actually wished that her malevolence and her arm remained sealed away. Upon realizing this, Ibaraki's arm forcibly took control of Kasen's entire body before Reimu managed to cut it off and seal her again. Kasen currently keeps the arm physically nearby in a mummified arm form as a trophy of sorts as a reminder, compared it to being able to see her own death close by. Kasen has a lot of small relationships, so we're going to power through them. This one would involve the other shrine maiden, Sanae. She lives on a yokai mountain near to Kasen and are considered neighbors. They meet fairly often and are on friendly enough terms. Kasen is a bit critical of Sanae as well, a bit to a much less extent than Reimu. Sanae describes her as living in a large mansion, corrected by Kasen as being a training dojo. Since we talked about Sanae, it would be reasonable to talk about her two goddesses, Kaneko and Suko. Despite being friendly enough with Sanae, she is highly suspicious of Kaneko and Suko's schemes to attain faith and their inability to handle the underground geysers centered dangers. I don't blame Kasen for being suspicious of the two goddesses. I don't even think she's wary of how many games were created because of their meddling. We then have the two Onis, Suika and Yugi. When Suika appeared at the Hakura Shrine, Kasen quickly fled the scene in order to avoid her. She appears familiar with Suika, but her relationship with her was unknown in the beginning, and she appears hesitant about letting Suika know about her current status. However, after learning that Kasen borrowed some sake from Yugi, Suika realized that Kasen was planning something and decided to leave her alone. To note though, given that we know Kasen is one of the 4 divas, it's safe to say that's how they knew each other. Last in the list will be Sumiriko. Kasen appears to meet with Sumiriko in Renosuke's shop several times over the course of Curiosities, including claiming that she's the secret supply chain Kasen utilizes to get goods from outside the barrier. Given that Kasen possesses her own ability to circumvent it, it is uncertain how much of their relationship is really related to transferring things to Kinsokyo, and how much this is a useful excuse for her abilities.
Fun/interesting facts.
Let's look at some fun facts for Kasen. As we know, the Hermit made her first game appearance back in Urban Legend. The thing is that it might have been possible we could have seen her earlier. Back in 10 Desires, in the planning stages, Kasen was a possibility as the extra stage boss for the game, along with Byakuren, though we all know that it was Mamizo who got the spot in the end. So in the beginning of the series, Kasen was reciting something. It turned out it was from a work by a person named Miyako no Yoshika. Now there's 2 parts to it that I find rather amusing. For one, we've established that Kasen is inspired by Ibaraki Doji. The thing is that Ibaraki Doji was impressed by Miyako's work. And if you didn't realize that at first, Miyako is the basis for our lovable Jongshi, Yoshika Miyako. A lot of references right there. There's something I want to note about Kasen's title. As we know, it's called the One-Armed Horned Hermit. From what I learned, it appears to be derived from a character from the Noah play, One-Armed Hermit, or Ikaku Sennin. Fancy? I think? I wouldn't know, I clearly have never seen the play before. Kasen is also unique in the fact that she's a Printwork character that eventually became a major character in a game. Aya is the main noticeable one as she started in Bohemian. The Fairies of Light would be another one as well as they showed up in the Sangetsusei series. The difference however is that Sunny, Luna, and Star were boss enemies and never playable in Fairy Wars, as compared to Aya and Kasen who were playable in their respective games. Aya more so as she got her own spin-off game, the fighters, and main game appearance. Still, it's an impressive track record for the Hermit.
Fanon Stuff.
Let's review some of the Fanon stuff for Kasen. Because of the advantages of being a Hermit, Kasen is not required to eat that much, suggesting that she could potentially be very thin in return. Fans picked up on that, drawing her very skinny, to the extent that you can see her ribs under her skin. It's a pun on Rib Kasen or Abara Kasen, though in contrast most art gives her a moderate frame and figure, sometimes more so. Not only that, in Wild, we know that she has quite the sweet tooth as well. Plus, one of her wing poses in Urban has her pulling out some sweets. Hell, even the artist of the manga, Aya Azuma, noted that she tried to include at least one scene of her eating sweets per volume. For that I can respect. For some reason, Kasen is sometimes portrayed with a sign in her hand, which was featured in chapter 2 of Wild and Horned Hermit. For some reason, when I read that, I thought it meant hand sign, not the wooden sign she posted. That makes much more sense. Many fans expected Kasen to appear in 10 Desires. Due to this, there exists a fan-made Phantasm stage featuring her as the boss, with Minamitsu being the mid-stage boss. I'll play a clip of it here. Since the introduction of Sega and 10 Desires, fans have frequently depicted Kasen and her together, very often on unfriendly terms as she is a proper hermit, while Sega is a wicked one. A few arts go with the scenario that the hate is especially fierce as Yoshika was actually the poet that she poisoned and that Kasen befriended in the past. You know what? I would be so down for a scenario where Kasen lost her friend because of Sega.
Pairings.
Now we're on to the pairings. There's only 2 notable pairings for Kasen. Let me review them. The first one would be Komachi. Since I made a profile with the Shinigami, I'll use that one again. Komachi and Kasen are Komakase. This pairing is fueled by the relationship in Wild and the unofficial manga, the Shinigami's rowing her boat as usual, both by Aya Azuma. As a hermit, Kasen must periodically fight off a Shinigami like Komachi in order to extend her lifespan. As such, the interactions are mildly antagonistic, but Komachi treats the situation fairly casually and even offers her advice and information. The last one would be Sega. Both are hermits. Because of Kasen's straight-laced nature and Sagest's so-called wickedness, their relationship tends to be portrayed as abrasive. Ain't that the bloody truth? But that's gonna be it for this episode. Which facts were your favorite? Did you like how preachy Kasen was to everyone in the series? Were you glad that we finally found out the truth of Kasen's species after all the teasing throughout the years? Or do you think Kasen will still show up even after the end of her manga series? If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe, or else Kasen will send her pets after ya. And she's got a lot of them, just to remind ya. Either way, this is Magi, and thanks again for watching.